This week's scenario is Recon from the 2015 Steamroller packet. The scenario does not have the Killbox artifice in effect and consists of a rectangular zone in the center of the board flanked by 2 flags. The flags can be dominated for 1 CP, the enemy objective can be destroyed for 1 CP, and the zone can be controlled for 1 CP or dominated for 2 CPs. First player to 5 control points or caster an assassination wins the game.
Okay, this is Warmachine 2012 here, and welcome to Meat Mountain on Meat Mountain. I have always played my Meat Mountain with P-Grissel. I like the Fellcalers that she brings to the list with Cacophony, and especially it being a favorite of mine. I grew up in Warmachine playing Harbinger with Covenant and Menoth, and my favorite play was to get the Covenant down as far as I could against people's armies and shut off their spellcasting capabilities. What I like about P-Grissel is she sort of does a similar style of play. I'll run her up behind a wall of 8 wound medium base infantry, and my goal is to get her into a range to do Cacophony. The Fellcaler and the Chronicler are new additions to the list. I went from a max champ to a min champ and added the 2 solos, so we'll see how they do.
Greetings everybody, Taodark here. In reflection of this being Friday the 13th as its release date, we've decided to go with a matchup that some people in the community would consider the most unluckiest of matchups, and that would be Meat Mountain versus Meat Mountain. A bare bones, knuckle drag out fight that is just going to result in a lot of potential tough checks dragging the game out. With that in mind, I took a standard Meat Mountain list that you've seen on the channel before and is commonly seen in competitive play. And for my scenario, I took Fuel Cache, and that was merely because it gives me the opportunity for Mulg or Axer to potentially get free charges off. And then in this specific matchup, the It's Burn ability may be able to assist in causing people to die if they are sitting on a tough check knockdown. So we'll have to see how this one plays out.
As you can see, we're playing the Recon scenario from the 2015 Steamroller packet. It's basically incursion with you take out the middle flag and you put it in a zone with 2 objectives. I actually find this to be mad fun. It's a great scenario so far. Every time I've played it, my opponent have had a good time. What I'm doing here is, running the champs in the middle. I like to take the champ hero and Skaldi. I think it adds some dynamic to the list. With Marshal Discipline, basically tactician for the unit, allows Skaldi to hang out behind, out of line of sight behind the other champs, and get a free charge, counter charge at some point. That's the only real major difference on our list. So mine's got a few more solos. I take the Lightning Troll for infantry clearing. It's not going to help as much in this match, but that's the general idea behind it.
For my deployment, I'm looking at the table and I notice that with the difficult terrain, I'm probably going to have to put my Fellcaler onto what would be my right-hand side, top of the screen. That way my warders for that symmetrical deployment will be able to charge through that terrain and not be impeded by it. I also noticed that my opponent doesn't have an Axer in his list, so I have a feeling that I am going to be using Inhospitable Ground a lot to try and control Mulg, and also to potentially force him into a scenario where he's going to need to use his feet in order to get up the table. It's not going to guarantee me an alpha strike, but it's definitely something I'm going to look for as a potential possibility. The matchup for the most part are really close to mirror. There are some variations between our lists, so it really kind of feels like to me that the winning player is most likely going to be the one who kills Mulg first. So that's definitely a priority.
Alright, there's nothing fancy to my turn 1. I'm going to try to get my units up the table as fast as possible. One of the main advantages he has over me is the combination of Inhospitable Ground and Dash. However, P-Grissel has a nice ability called Hoof It, which I'm going to give to the unit on the right to get them further up the table as we go along. The other nice thing is I like to be able to dump. Going first is big. I like to be able to dump my entire Fury stack onto the stone. and still run Grisel because it's a fell call. It can be done anytime during our activation. So the Krielstone has 6 on it, which is always nice. And my opponent, playing a similar list to my own, does not have a huge ranged presence other than his caster, so I'm not going to have to use any of the stone this turn, so it's going to be fairly easy to fill it up. A lot of this matchup's going to come down to Mulg versus Mulg, who can better position their Mulg to get an alpha. He's a tide turner. I like his Axer in this matchup a lot more than I like my Storm Troll. But so what I'm looking forward to do right here is I'm gonna try to flank the right hand warders to be my main screen, and the rough terrain at the top flag is gonna be a problem for the top unit of warders, but we'll try to get around that.
E-Grissel turn 1. So as I mentioned before, the warders are going to basically go on to the opposite side of the rough terrain. I'm not necessarily looking to put any play towards that flag. I'm actually not even really looking at either of the flag beyond denying him the ability to score or dominate on those flags. So I'm really kind of looking to put most of my play into the central zone, which I feel like that this zone is for the most part where the game is played at, between the objectives and trying to control or dominate the zone, with some outlier efforts towards the flags, which is why I'm basically got each warder unit is going to be playing more of a contesting the flag effort than anything else. And also just to also counter the other warder units. Playing a mirror matchup like this is really odd because you're basically not only mirroring in lists, but a lot of times you're also mirroring in tactics, and you'll see that a lot between the way both of us play the lists. We're using the same list to counter, or same units to counter each other. So I advanced Mulg up and I put him in base to base with the objective. I'm not sure exactly why I did that. I know logically I was going for a scenario where there would be no line of sight between Mulg and the objective, but really the only thing that needs to draw line of sight to Grissel would be the Storm Troll, who's nowhere near in order to get that shot off. But the spray that both Grissel and the Fellcaler can do could easily just target the objective to hit her anyways. So I'm not sure what the genesis of that idea was. But basically just pushing forward, I put up on inhospitable ground, which is just outside of his current deployment, and basically just putting him into a situation where he's going to have to get blunted in his advance on the first or on the second turn. And then just kind of advancing everything up as it was deployed.
Alright, so he has cast Inhospitable Ground, which is a pretty big nuisance for my list. It's all about, I surmise that P-Grissel versus E-Grissel is all about who's going to get a better alpha, because once these lines lock, it's going to be real tough for anybody to slog through anything. So yeah, that objective, it is something else. It looks good, but you'll see what happens to it in a little bit. Okay, so I've got Skaldi set up where he's going to be able to countercharge. The Troll Hero comes up and behind. Those two guys can do a lot of work, and hopefully take a couple warders or champs off the table on their go. One of the big advantages that P-Grissel has on E-Grissel is Cacophony. It's like a fear of God for all his units. They're not going to be able to run or charge. And on her feet turn, she can really get a lot of work done. E-Grissel's feet does a good job of buffing up the armor, but P-Grissel's feet does a great job of letting each unit attack twice, get a hoof it move. So my plan to win this match is to make great use of P-Grissel's feet. And then you'll see how that plan sort of unravels a little bit. So again, one of the nice things about this game is you have a plan and you have a backup plan. My stone is moved up. Pretty sure that we're both just going to say strength for the stone, so it'll be armor and +1 strength all game long for both teams. I really think that he's got a good situation going on with the left hand side of his army. My Krielstone and 1 unit of warders versus pretty much his champs and warders. So I kind of feel like the rough terrain on the left is kind of bottlenecking me at the moment. I'm about to activate Grissel and fill the stone back up to full after I run the storm troll up. Fill the stone back up to full, and what I'm trying to do with her when I move her up is I want to get her in range to not have to feat, but to use Cacophony. When she uses Cacophony as a fell call, it's only a 9-inch range. On her feat turn, it's a 12-inch range. And so you're going to see me move her up and then start checking distances. What I'm trying to check for is who can I get into her 9-inch range. So the fun thing about playing Taodark is we're doing a lot of discussing right now on how this alpha is going to work and who's going to get the best work done with these two lists. And I've always thought that P-Grissel was a good counter to E-Grissel, the most popular Meat Mountain version. She's just a very dynamic and diverse caster with her fell calls. So I'm moving up, trying to check some ranges. Where's 9 inches going to get me for Cacophony? I'm going to get the champs easy. What I'm trying to do is get the champs on both units of warders at the same time with 9 inches. And there's that objective. It's going to get punted in a second. So I'm moving up, checking my ranges. I've got everybody at this point. And then we're discussing the fact that Mulg is tucked behind the fuel cache on his side. And because it's behind the fuel cache on his side, I know Mulg's not going to be able to charge me. At least that was my initial thinking. And then as we looked it over, right now I'm casting a rift, trying to get some more inhospitable ground out on the table. So he has to deal with it. So it's going to be a nice little rift in front of his unit of warders. So they won't have Pathfinder unless he fell calls them, which he can do. But the main thing is I'm trying to get Cacophony in play. We look at it, we discuss it. There's a lot of discussion going on about threat ranges and such, and it dawns on us both that he can just destroy his fuel cache and charge with Mulg, so I'm going to have to feat. So I feat. I haven't put the token down yet, but I've feated, and I'm going to have to... So when you feat defensively with P-Grissel, basically what you're doing is you're moving your units up to block charge lanes and get further into his army. And that's what I'm going to wind up having to do. So I lose one of the biggest bonuses, which is the 2 attacks, which can be completely devastating, but I'm going to be able to move my forces up in a way that keeps Grissel safe, and he's not going to be able to charge me with any of his units because my range on Cacophony extends to 12 inches instead of 9, so no spell casting and no orders can be given to his units within 9 or 12 inches of wherever Grissel winds up here at the end of these moves. Again, inhospitable ground means I'm not exactly blazing the trail up the table right now. I'm only moving 2 inches with almost all my units, but it's allowing me to say, okay, what I want you to do is try to kill my champs with Mulg, and then if you kill my champs with Mulg, I'm going to get your Mulg with my Mulg. That's the plan. And if I can get up on his Mulg, then I feel like I have a huge advantage.
E-Grissel turn 2. So I was provided a scenario where P-Grissel was going to be available for me to get a charge in on Mulg. I would just have to kill the objective in order to get Mulg up there and kill P-Grissel. And in a tournament scenario, you definitely want to let your opponent provide you those opportunities. And capitalize on any mistakes that they may provide. In this situation, I was not comfortable this day getting a win on top of or bottom of 2. I wanted to see how the list played out because that was the intent of the game, was not necessarily the winner or the loss, but what happens when 2 meat mounts come after each other. So we talked about it with each other, and he used his feat actually to sort of counter deal with me being able to get to it. So now we've got to reassess the situation where I've got a line of champions in the way and I need to deal with them and I need to engage them, but I need to do so real underneath P-Grissel's feet, which means many of my units, almost all of them actually, can't charge, can't do anything, can't issue any orders. And I'm looking at the situation. I've got to get engaged. I'm going to use my feet this turn because he's already used his feet. I don't need to necessarily save that for later turns. So what I can do is I can use the feet to potentially provide me the increased armor so that any sort of counter strike that he does to me in the following turn, because I won't get much off of him because I'm under the no orders, I can use my feet to counter that and then turn around and come back in and potentially get a harder counter strike when he comes back in. My bottom warders go ahead and set up for a charge, or not a charge, I'm sorry, for an advance underneath the no orders, and the fact that I can't get through, I can't get the Pathfinder from my Fellcaler because he's at the top of the screen. They're not going anywhere but 2 inches. So, I'm not getting very far with the warders, and basically what I'm going to do is just set up the front 2 and then have the 3 in the back set up for a counter strike in the following turn. Here I activate my champions, and I advance up with them, which I actually did the first move because I was really hoping my opponent would take Skaldi for the counter charge. I really wanted to bait him out. I potentially could have lost a champion as a result of it because of the counter charge that Skaldi would do, but it was more in an effort to, if I could get Skaldi out and get some champions on him, I would be able to actually get some attacks into him enough that I might be able to kill Skaldi and overtake out of the champion's arsenal. The ability for them to hit something with a weapons master, kill it, and then overtake an inch to hit something else allows them to do a significant amount of infantry damage. And I don't want to have a scenario where a hard spike on one weapons master attack allows him to get another weapons master attack on a different champion, and as a result kill 2 champions with 1 champion. I don't want to give him that opportunity for a trade, so killing Skaldi seems important to me. Obviously killing the champion would have been nice as well because I can remove the ability for them to walk through each other, but the champion is safely behind their lines, so I'm not necessarily going to get that opportunity in this turn. So I go through the champion's attacks, and unfortunately Skaldi is still alive. I believe he had like 2 hit points left. So I go ahead and I activate Grissel to set up a spray, and it comes into question if I would actually clip my own champions as a result of it due to my placement. So we get a third party in to look at the spray to see where it is, and that was an 8-inch template, which she actually has a 10. So you'll see a 10-inch template come in just to make sure that I don't clip Mulg or P-Grissel or anybody else in the back. And just as an aside, if you ever get into a situation where you and your opponent aren't necessarily comfortable with the outcome of a template layover or an AoE or anything like that, get a third party involved. Anybody really. I mean, it doesn't necessarily even have to be somebody who knows the rules of the game. They just need to be able to see where a template falls when it comes to bases. Just inform them, what you're looking for, what angle that you're looking at, and then let them make the decide. Don't try and feed them too much information to sway their opinion either way. Let that third party be as biased as possible. And that's what we did in our situation. We had them come in and make the call, and I was able to hit Skaldi and 2 of the champions, but not be able to clip any of my guys. So we go ahead and we do manage to get out Skaldi, and I think we managed to put 1 or 2 points of damage on the champions in the back, which is bonus, but we got the main thing that we wanted, which was taking overtake out of the equation. So she pops feet, and that's again feeding towards the concept of, since I can't get charges off, my alpha strike is blunted. I'm going to use the feet with the engagement plus 2 armor to potentially drive towards blunting his alpha strike again, getting the first blunt off of the inhospitable ground in turn 1, and then again with the feet, so that I can come in back in turn 3 and potentially do a lot of damage. The warders are going to go ahead, same concept as the bottom warders, get 2 of them up to engage, and then the other 3 kind of sit back and wait for the counter strike in the following turn. I did not put up inhospitable ground this turn, and that was probably a huge failure on my part. I took those attacks on Skaldi to kill him, But I think actually Inhospitable Ground would have been more of a benefit. And here's another mistake that I'm doing. I'm so enticed into getting Mulg in engagement range so he can benefit from the feat that I draw him forward and only really put 2 or 3 models between him and my opponent's Mulg. And that could potentially turn into a horrible situation for me if he can get past the feat turned armor.
Okay, so it's going to be a little bit of a long turn, so I'm going to explain a couple things that happened during Taodark's turn, and why I did what I did with Skaldi, for example. I had Skaldi countercharge because, number one, he hadn't feated yet, so his armor buff wasn't any bigger than it should be. He hadn't used a Krielstone yet, and when he brought his champ forward, it wasn't in base-to-base with another champ. So if I figure I catch the first champ, I do 2 things. Number one, I'm hitting him when he's at his weakest. And number 2, it's going to be a lot harder with him. Only be able to walk 5 inches to get his guys in base-to-base. And as you see, it's kept most of his champs spread out, where there's basically only one person in base-to-base rather than in a triangle or anything like that. Alright, so we have 2 goals that I'm thinking about in this round. Number 1, this right-hand flag isn't really well contested. It's basically 2 models. So what I'm trying to do is set this up to where I can clear those 2 models and run Grissel to that flag and start scoring. Because I figure if I can get some scenario pressure on him, it's going to give him a harder time coming back, especially with I'm going to have his other side completely engaged. And the second goal, major goal of this turn, is to take out his Mulg with my Mulg. Now he's feated, so he's going to be armor 23, and that's a tough task. But that's the 2 main objectives of this turn, is to score on this right-hand flag, or closest to you flag, and to take out Mulg. So the warders have come up. They did a little bit of damage, not too much. Right here, this takes a little bit of time. I'm going to take my Storm Troll, and I'm going to do a 2-handed throw on his warder. And if I haven't mentioned enough, I grew up playing Menoth in this game. And in playing Menoth, that means I'm playing a lot of Reckoners. Not a whole lot of power attacks going on when you do that. So power attacks are still relatively new to me. So the debate is, I'm doing a 2-handed throw, and where I picked the guy with that marker closest to him in the middle, if you count from the bottom, the second guy up. And what I should have done is thrown him out to the right, because what happens is you roll, you hit, you do your strength checks and all that stuff, and then you roll. If you don't hit the throw, you roll deviations. And after all this fun stuff and throwing this model, wouldn't you know that it almost winds up landing exactly with its drift where it started from. So it hits the model next to it, knocks those 2 guys down, and that's basically all that happens in this stage. I think I get to boost the damage on the model, so I get some more damage on the water. Pretty much learned a lesson on power attack throw there. So I'm not going to be able to score. He's still contesting, even though he's laying down. I'm out of attacks basically for that area. So let's hope phase 2 goes a little better. I'm going to activate the Krielstone to get the strength buff going. These Krielstone guys actually do a good bit of damage when they charge in these warders. You know, the last thing people really expect is the Krielstone to come out and do damage. And there's nothing, you know, a charging POW 12 is legitimate damage against a lot of things, even at dice minus, I think at this point it's dice minus 11. I think they get a couple of points down anyways. I guess I'm not going Krielstone right now. The champ hero is going to go first. Again, making use of martial discipline, I've charged through my own lines, and I'm going to do a thresher attack. So I'm going to catch my warder, which he's beat up pretty good, and I believe all of his champs except for the one in the back. So again, this is an aspect of the list I really enjoy, having the tactician with a hero, and the counter charge with Skaldi. And if Skaldi hadn't taken that spot where the hero is now, there wouldn't have been a lane for him to charge to. But the first thing I do is obliterate my own water, so that's never a good thing. And now I'm going to roll damage on his guys. Take out the guy I charged, and now it's 3 dice on the other ones. He does a good amount of damage, and he also hits Mulg for a bit, so that adds to the plan. I'm regretting that I did not activate the Krielstone first, so that his POW was 1 more. I believe I leave a guy on 1 health. At least I'd like to have made him make a tough check. And to that end, here comes the Krielstone. So Krielstone is going to do 2 things. Number 1, he doesn't have a large volume of attacks. Krielstone has self-sack. If he wants to actually attack the stone itself, I'm all for it. I'll just sacrifice a couple grunts. The armor buffs that I care about are going to be on this side of the map. I'm pretty much decided the other side of the map is just going to be tie him up as much as possible. Try to win on this right hand side if I'm going to win by scenario. So done a good amount of damage. Not going to activate, I believe, the champs. I'm going to get, or am I not? Okay, so Grissel's going to go. Grissel's going to boost and put Calamity on Mulg. Another real nice thing that Grissel has is the spell Calamity. Everything that attacks that target now is +2 to damage and +2 to hit. And that's going to be huge, not only in helping mitigate E-Grissel's feat, but even though Mulg is only defense 11, you're going to see that it comes into play. So Grissel's put Calamity on Mulg. She's come over to the side now. I want to be able to walk to that flag next turn and start scoring. If I can clear out. I've set the engagement line pretty much at his max limit for contesting. So my idea is if I can just push that line back just a little bit, I should be able to start scoring next turn. The warders that are attacking now, their only job is to tie up that flag. Again, I'm trying to set the engagement lines on his side of the field so that he's not really able to put a lot of scenario pressure on me. If he wants to devote a lot of time to killing off that unit, it's going to mean that I'm going to be able to push my side of the table. So the main thing is I'm setting the engagement line past the flags onto his edge of the table. I actually think they do a couple good amounts of damage and kill at least 1 warder, which is never a bad thing. I can't remember what Fellcaler Grissel made. I want to say that she gave those guys Heroic Ballad, which lets them attack twice. But she might have, nope. She put Heroic Ballad on Mulg. So Heroic Ballad allows you to pick a model or a unit, and they get to attack an extra time. So she stuck that on Mulg for this turn. It's because I want to make sure my Mulg kills his Mulg. Right now the champs are maneuvering. Again, Marshal Discipline. This guy got a huge charge off, and I believe takes out a champ. The other one's going to do a little bit of damage. The main thing is the path is now clear for Mulg to charge Mulg. Pretty bad damage rolls by these guys at this moment, but I make up for that in just a minute. So Mulg's probably taking about 5 or 6 damage at this point. I've said it before. I'll say it anytime I play. You really want to have proxy bases with you whenever you play this game, just so you can show where you're intending to go and what you intend to do. If you saw this roll, it was really quick, but I rolled a 3 to hit, which would have missed with the mat 7, except for Calamity gave me +2 to hit. So I was hitting on anything but Snake Eyes, and that's huge because that damage spike right there was, I think I rolled a 5.56 for damage, so it's pretty nuts. The meaty fist takes out the champ that had 1 hit point left, and I think it only takes me 3 fury to kill his Mulg under his feet with Calamity, which allows me another attack and the feet attack to put some damage onto his champs and warders. So not only have I been able to kill his Mulg, but I've tied up his units enough where for him to kill my Mulg in return, he's going to have a real tough time. And that's always a great thing. So he's going to be able to get his Axer and maybe a warder or 2 on him. That's about it. So at least task 2 was accomplished and accomplished well. If I didn't score, at least I'm putting the notion in his head that it was going to possibly happen. So now it's just a matter of moving units up, and I try to get a little spray on the objective and catch Grissel in behind the objective, maybe put a little pressure on her, but didn't do much. So that was my turn.
E-Grissel, turn 3. So, as I'd feared, I lost Mulg last turn. I actually lost a couple of the champions as well, which is not a good thing. And the 2 main factors to that, obviously, was that I advanced up Mulg in hopes of getting a +2 to his armor, which wasn't really needed. There wasn't much in the way of range damage that was going to actually do any damage to Mulg that I needed to. I basically fed my opponent my Mulg, and that that's going to definitely be a huge turning point for me. I think the going after Skaldi was also another huge issue that I went through. Yeah, taking Overtake out of the equation is good, but I think Inhospitable Ground would have been a lot better because it would have allowed me to further provide difficulty to an army that has limited Pathfinder. So definitely lessons learned there. I have a bad habit of, one of our subscribers pointed out, I have a bad habit of tunnel vision, and it's absolutely true. And it's something I'm trying to figure out how to get over, because it's costed me many a games. I mean, I don't lose every game that I play. I know that the channel might make that look like that's the situation, but I definitely need to fix on this. Here you'll notice I activated my stones, and I put them in a line, which you'll notice in a minute. I'll be like, wait a second, and I'll fix the formation, because there's 2 people on this table who have sprays, and drawing a line like that is a horrible idea when there's sprays available. So I set themselves up into ranges of 2, and that's also because I want to get the Chronicler over to the other side, so I give him a path. So there's still a line worthy of hitting an objective and 2 of the stones and the Chronicler, but I'm at least not handing him 5 of my stones. So here we're going through and we're doing the activations of the Axer, trying to get him up, and he's actually there to potentially do damage, but also to have reach on Mulg. The Chronicler has put charge of the trolls on the warders at the top of the screen, and if I can get, with the Pathfinder from the Fellcaler, if I can get 2 or 3 of the warders to charge on a Mulg, plus any damage that the Axer might do to Mulg, I can potentially kill out Mulg. If I can get rid of my opponent's Mulg, it will be a huge boon to me, and I might be able to actually salvage this into a game again. Both lines are just jammed up. I mean, looking at the screen now, I can even say that I can't tell where some warders start and other warders end, because the table is so confusing with the amount of... It doesn't help that my opponent and I also have very close color schemes with the red-orange schemes. So the Axer is doing his business, trying to get in damage that he wants, and then the warders turn around and go after Mulg. And I do manage to get some damage down. I managed to get some damage down on the warders who can't get to Mulg, on his warders. But it's one of those scenarios, honestly, when where you're facing Meat Mountain, if you don't take a model off the table, it's almost as bad as not doing anything at all. So we run into that situation where it's not enough. I've engaged my Fellcaler up because I didn't need the Pathfinder. So just trying to get some spray damage in to kill out some of those warders. I'm not really pressed with that flag. He can't do anything with it. P-Grissel's too far from it. She's put a play towards the bottom flag. So that's more of just a jam and engagement. My main focus is Mulg, clearing the zone, and then contesting the bottom blue flag. So champions are going, again, just trying to go through the efforts of clearing up the zone. I also don't want to move the champions too far away from P-Grissel. That way she's got a screen of 1 or 2 champions under stone to prevent Mulg from trampling over to her, to prevent another champion from my opponent's side getting a charge on her. I need that screen. Without their Mulg to threaten, my opponent will take any opportunity to jump down my throat and kill Grissel that I provide. Again, going for more of the jam, trying to get some orders, and you'll notice one of the models that I moved was actually my opponent's warder. Whoops. So warders are doing damage where they can, trying to kill champions, trying to kill warders, even trying to get some attacks on the stone. I do manage to kill one of the warders that was blocking Grissel's potential line of sight to P-Grissel. I don't have an impaler in the list, so it's going to require me to get up a little bit closer in order to get the double shot and sprays on her. Mulg could advance if I hit her, but he's not really going to go anywhere because he's got like 3 weapons masters engaged him, and if he were to advance away from them in order to protect a fit towards P-Grissel, he's going to take some serious damage from free strikes, and that's not something he's going to necessarily do. So I feel safe in trying to activate P-Grissel and get some shots down, or I'm sorry, trying to activate E-Grissel and get some shots on Prime Grissel. So that's basically what I'm doing, is just advancing up and setting the line. The ideal scenario is that I want to knock her down. So I boost on the first one, which is the knockdown shot, to get it so that I can get her knocked down. So the other 2 don't necessarily need to boost in order to hit. She's got transfers on her, so I need to put as much damage. I don't think I'm going to be able to kill her with all 3 shots. I would need a little bit more attacks, or she would be a little bit more closer in order to get some award or something like that on her after the shots if I were to change the activation order. But I do get some damage on her. And some is better than none, especially when Mulg can't really do much about it. So spraying the far stone scribe that was removed, that was not underneath the spray, was removed as a result of sack. I offered my opponent the opportunity to protect a fit with Mulg, and he declined, as one would expect.
So yes, that turn was vindication for everyone in the audience that feels that all Trollblood models look alike. I definitely got charged by my own warder. That was pretty funny. We had a good laugh about it. So what my goals are for this turn. The first thing I want to do is fight on this right-hand side of the flag, see what I can clear out to see if it's still an option for scoring. But keep my options open to then attack the left-hand side flag, because that's where Mulg is. The stone's going to activate early in the activation. One guy's going to get a swing on. I think it's a knockdown one or something like that. I can't remember. What I want to see happen on this turn is I think my Storm Troll also frenzied, if I'm not mistaken. Oh no, it passed the frenzy check, so that was kind of annoying. So it stayed full of its fury and didn't really have a lot it could do this turn. So what I'm doing right now is just trying to put models in the way. I think I've decided that I'm not going to probably be able to take out this side to score. So Grissel's making sure she has a path to get to the other side of the board. The fellas were tracking tough rolls throughout this match, and I believe between Taodark and myself, we failed over 90% of our tough rolls. So one of the added benefits of playing Trollbloods didn't much come into effect in this game. Alright. Not going to be able to score on this flag. So, best bet I feel is at this point to get Grissel over to the other side, start working on scoring, get into a position where I can start scoring on the left-hand flag. He did a good job with his caster of reminding me of how scary her ranged assassination threat can be. So I don't want to get less than 2 for camping. So that's what I'm doing right now, is figuring out how much I'm going to cast for everything and how I'm going to make sure I still have 2 fury left over. So you see a lot of, there we go, moving to the middle, check my range. I'm going to now attempt to, I guess I just moved back. Something's being discussed. I'm sure it was very interesting at the time. I played this list at TempleCon this past weekend and went 5-2 with it. The 2 losses, I lost to JVM playing his P-Veil list. I missed a charge with Mulg by about 1/8 of an inch. That might have switched the game in my favor. And then I lost to Ocean's 18. So those are 2 matchups I wouldn't recommend dropping this into. Just for future reference if you decide you want to take a swing with P-Grissel Meat Mountain. So now I've put Calamity up on his warders, and I'm giving Heroic Bow to my warders, so they're going to attack twice. So what I'm hoping to do is I've bounced from the right flag to the left flag, and see if I can't start getting ready to score on that side. The fight in the middle is really just about keeping models in between his caster and my caster. So we clear out a few. Again, neither one of us knows how to make a tough roll. Couple points of damage and another failed tough roll. And now it's going to be time for Mulg to go to work. Wow, I did have some nice spikes. I will not deny that. Alright. Nope, not time for Mulg yet. Now the warder's going to go. They're outside of stone range, so they're not going to get the +1 strength bonus, but I believe they are battle driven. And attacking twice. So that's a huge advantage I feel for P-Grissel over E-Grissel, is that once the lines lock, I can no longer have to worry about cacophony. I can pick whatever unit I have the most intact and let it attack twice. So at this point, I actually have that flag cleared out, but I don't have anything over there that can score. Hypothetically, I mean, only, of course, in this scenario, only your caster can score. But at least I have it set up for next turn if I still need to go that route. Mulg now is going to start snacking. Kills the last warder I believe he had over there. Spiked huge damage against his Axer. I mean, it got to the point where I was apologizing for how hard Mulg was hitting this entire game. If you're gonna spike dice, spiking them on Mulg's pretty good model to choose. Put up his Animus Runebreaker. Fellcaler is trying to spray down his Krielstone. And so what I've got set up now is an assassination run with Mulg and scoring on the left flag.
E-Grissel turn 4. What a fight. I mean, this thing is just dragging on, and there's a reason why people say Meat Mountain on Meat Mountain is just the unluckiest matchup for trolls, and that's because this is just a drop-down, knuckle-drag-out fight. We haven't really had much in the way of scenario play. I haven't had an opportunity to get to my opponent's objective, to get any points out of that, to start controlling the zone. He hasn't necessarily had an opportunity to get anything towards my objective. So for the most part, the scenario has been kind of a dead standstill, and I've lost way too many models in order to even put scenario into play. So my only real option is to go after Grissel to kill her. I have too few pieces in play to even protect her, even less to actually get damage down. My warders are dropping like flies. So it's a situation of assassination or get assassinated, and that's really what it's boiling down to. Activating the stone, running them up, not expecting them to do any damage, just expecting to engage. If I can get Mulg engaged or somehow get him surrounded by medium bases, then maybe I can prevent him from getting protective fits, because that's got to be a concern going into trying to assassinate P-Grissel, is that I need to watch out for protective fits. She's got 2 transfers on her, and I need to be mindful of where he is and what he's doing. You'll notice that near my hand, the right of the screen, I've actually dropped out my focus, and that was just, I'm basically counting out what I'm going to hit, what I'm going to boost, and what I need to set into play in order to get things set up. Now I've got to clear a space or a line of sight lane for Grissel to advance up and shoot, to which I managed to do that with the warders. So we kill out another champion. Unfortunately, I was really hoping to get one of the warders up to Mulg, but the way I was engaged, it wasn't really possible, because I would have taken a free strike from a champion. Now I could have dashed, and that would have allowed me to basically ignore free strikes and advance a warder up at speed 5 to get into base space with Mulg. But if I did that, it would remove the assassination from the table. I really need all of the fury that I have on her in order to pull this off. Because I'm going to have to get through 2 transfers, and then I'm just going to need to boost and hard spike damage onto her. So looking at it, deciding, yeah, this is really what I wanted to do. Unfortunately, it's a situation where I'm going to have to knock down Mulg. I have nothing else to do. I can't have him protective fit. He was too close, and there's an availability for him to get bead on P-Grissel with his reach club if I don't. So I use my knockdown shot to knock him down, and that's when I realize, crap, she's still got 2 transfers on her. I've used the 1 shot I needed to protect P-Grissel, which has caused me to lose the assassination potential. So I can't assassinate P-Grissel anymore. What I can do is potentially put damage on her, or in vice versa, put damage on Mulg through transfers, or the Storm Troll, either scenario. But this game's kind of fallen out for me. I get some damage on the stones, nothing really major, shrinking down the armor aura, but it's not turning out well. But who knows? Maybe something will turn around for me.
Okay, so I have 2 or 3 models that stand in between Mulg and Grissel. So the object of this turn is going to be to remove those models and put Mulg onto Grissel. To that effect, he had knocked down Mulg, so he had to force to stand up beginning of the turn. The first thing, he's got one guy jamming Mulg, so I'm going to have to clear him out. My warders are all free on the top, so they're going to get that assignment. And again, the trend continues of no one able to make a tough roll. That might have been a mistake. That guy might have been knocked down. I don't know if he should have been able to attack or not. The main thing was for him to get out of the way. So Grissel stands still. She's put Calamity on that unit of warders. And is going to hit him with a Pow 12. Boost damage. It does make it tough. So looking around, I've got a couple of guys that I can get onto those 2 guys in the way, but then they'll be in Mulg's way as well. So the one guy that I have that isn't going to get in Mulg's way and can still attack is the Chronicler. So Mr. Chronicler, who doesn't get into combat much, is going to attempt to become a hero. First, the Krielstone is going to pop for strength and try to make sure it stays out of the way. Best it can. Chronicler is going to walk up, take a swing at the knockdown guy. Spikes damage. No tough roll. Well, actually, that guy wasn't knocked down. So at this point, I do believe I'm just finishing those guys' activations. I believe Trolls are in a real good spot right now. I think that between Meat Mountain, Runes of War, and I'm a real big fan of Kalandra's Elemental Evolution. They've got a lot of play. And I think that they're in a good spot. They're positioned well for 2015. Really, the problem is 2 of those 3 lists really want Mulg. I mean, in this list, you see Mulg pretty much bats clean up. He basically lets whatever it is that's come to kill the warders and champs do its thing and then clear it out afterwards, and then get surrounded again by warders and champs. So, checking the charge lane. Taodark's attempting to convince me to win on scenario at this point. I'm not falling for his evil tricks, and besides, it makes for better TV when Mulg goes and smashes the caster, I think. So, so Mulgs come in, and to continue the trend, I'm going to boost the hit, the charge attack. To continue the trend, he basically is going to one-shot Grissel with a 5.56 roll. She does make a tough check. Unfortunately, I have a few attacks left I can buy. And that's it.